Hello and welcome again. I'm François Picard. Could the nation that 3 years ago today witnessed the first spark of the Arab Spring now be its final hope? It's been a rollercoaster ride for Tunisia since a desperate street vendor in sleepy Sidi Bouzid set himself alight to protest the relentless shakedown by the cops. In retrospect, the overthrow of the country's strongman of 22 years seems like the easy part. Tunisians voted peacefully for a Constituent Assembly, but its document is nearly 2 years overdue. The moderate Islamists who won the most seats at the time seem outflanked as well at times by hardliners, what with the 2012 attack on the U.S. Embassy and the assassination of outspoken secular opposition leaders. This past weekend, though, under pressure from European donors, there was a political breakthrough. Consensus on the name of the non-partisan industry minister to lead the country to the ratification of that constitution and elections. After the counter-revolution in Egypt, as institutions seem to flounder in neighboring Libya, as Syria disintegrates, can Tunisia, a small nation of 10 million, succeed where others have failed in completing its revolution and getting Islamists and secular parties to agree and abide by common rules? Today in the France 24 debate, can Tunisia buck the trend? With us from Tunis, Moncef, Deputy Chair of the Constituent Assembly's Finance Committee. Thanks for being back with us here in the France 24 debate. Here in the studio, Saida, OUNISSI, researcher in political science at Paris's Sorbonne University. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back as well to activist Jalila PEUGNET. Thank you for being with us. And joining us from the Tunisian capital, Monica Marks, Middle Eastern Studies researcher at St. Antony's College, Oxford. Thank you for being with us. Your piece posted on Foreign Policy's website this Tuesday, the France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. Yes, it was 3 years ago today, the start of the uprising in Tunisia. Before we go to our panel, let's go to this report read by Olivia Salazar-Winspear.
Some call it the true success story of the Arab Spring. Today's Tunisia is indeed a different country compared to 3 years ago. Key political freedoms have been gained and the space for public debate has opened up. Yet despite these civil liberties, the economy is still struggling, tourism's not yet recovered, leaving more young Tunisians looking for work than before the revolution. Many of them believe that corruption is still alive and well in the new administration.
As long as they don't want to change the country for the better, as long as they're just thinking about clinging to their posts, their power, well then they're not thinking about what's best for the country.
On December 17, 2010, Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in an act of desperation and in protest against police harassment. His death sparked an uprising that toppled leader Zine El Abidine Ben Ali in less than a month. 9 months later, the country went to the polls. Yet the death throes of the old regime were painful. Hundreds of Tunisians died in clashes. The rise to power of the Islamic party Ennahda was a cause for concern for those who fear the country's taking an excessively religious direction. Political instability has seen 2 opposition members assassinated this year. Factors that some analysts say could prevent Tunisia from reaping the benefits of its revolution.
The Tunisian political class seem paralyzed in their petty interests, with no perspective of the magnitude of these events, despite the goodwill found in Tunisian society. So if things remain as they are, we're in a dangerous situation, perilous and, frankly, hopeless.
With only a draft constitution for now and no date set for the upcoming elections, Tunisia still has serious obstacles to overcome in this, the first chapter of the country's nascent democracy.
All right, quite a lot of criticism in that report. I want to start with you, perhaps, Moncef Sheikh. Do you feel as though the spirit of that spontaneous uprising of 3 years ago has waned?
Well, I feel that Tunisia has completed today the construction of the first stage of the rocket called democratization. And now Tunisia is addressing the construction of the second floor of this rocket, which is called peaceful alternance on power. And this is what Tunisia is doing. I think that the view by the Professor Vermeuren is extremely partial. Any democratization move, when you are playing the game by the rule of democracy with the majority and the minority, will have to have the minority accept the rules of what is voted against them. But if the majority does not perform correctly, then there is another election usually to change the old majority and have a new majority. What Tunisia has done is that the legitimacy of election had to be appended, and we decided to add another legitimacy, which is the legitimacy of consensus seeking. And both legitimacies together have allowed 22 of the top parties of Tunisia to sit down under the auspices of the labor union, the bosses union, the human rights union, and the lawyers union. And for many, many weeks, we have worked very hard to reach an agreement on a new prime minister that is forming now, a new government that is temporary, that will lead us to elections, to a new constitution, and to the second stage of what I call the peaceful alternance on power. So this is what is happening.
I was going to say, Moncef Sheikh, I'll ask you in a moment how long you think that second stage is going to last, but I just want to show to our viewers some images from today in Sidi Bouzid, where it all began. Several rallies to mark that third anniversary of the uprising. Sidi Bouzid with the country's highest unemployment rate, more than 24%, where organizers of today's events warned the president, the Speaker of Parliament, and the outgoing Prime Minister, well, to stay away. Monica Marks, why are they unwelcome?
For being caught up in what a lot of people here perceive as abstract political debates in the capital over issues that really don't affect their daily material realities, over things like the Constitution, over their own political squabbles. Most Tunisians are not plugged into the national dialogue process. They feel like things are stalling. They feel like there are a lot of fat cats in the capital who don't know or don't care about their problems. So there's a great deal of dissatisfaction and disappointment. People had a revolution 3 years ago for dignity. And for a lot of people, that meant economic dignity. And most people don't feel much change in a positive direction on that front.
All right. Most people don't feel as though the change is happening fast enough. Tunisia's interim president, looking back over the past 3 years, he's seeing the glass half full.
There is the development budget, which has reached 10 times what it used to be before the revolution. Hundreds of projects have been launched, which sooner or later will bear fruits. The economic situation is back in movement after it was brought to a standstill in 2011.
All right, so Saida, OUNISSI, you heard the president there saying, be patient, it's happening. But it sounds like from what Monica Marks was saying is that a lot of people have lost their patience.
Monica is right in the sense that people start to lose their patience. But I think that if we look at the whole picture, 3 years is almost nothing. I mean, today you can't even complete your studies in 3 years. I mean, in terms of time, I think when we look at the whole context, it is also not that disappointing, especially if we focus on what's happening in Egypt, for example, on the situation in terms of security in Libya or in Syria, for example. So yes, definitely, there is this time aspect which is very present, but yet in the same time, actually from my perspective, which is more a historical one, I feel that it is not that bad, because at that stage we do have a draft of the Constitution which is finished, which is ready to be voted. In the same time, we do have a kind of alternance. We had this national dialogue as well, which took a lot of time, that's right, but which at the end of it get with a positive point, which is that there is a new prime minister which got the consensus and the agreement of most of the political stakeholders. and who start to form a new government.
Jalila HEBHLI.
Yeah, I don't totally agree with her, because why are we comparing ourselves with Syria and Libya, with the cases of Syria? It's not the same. We're not the same people. We're not the same. It's not the same thing. Okay, the people in Sidi Bouzid lost their patience because they don't see any clue. They don't see a clear image, because since 3 years now, it's the same thing. They don't see any clear, readable roadmap for them to know when is that happening, when do we finish the constitution, when are we finishing this transitional period. So that creates frustration. That's actually, that frustration is coming from the uncertainty, the climate of uncertainty, and the rise of terrorism and insecurity in Tunisia, and that makes them really upset. And I think we shouldn't measure about the timing, but we measure the impact, because they are losing their acquis. The security was an acquis under the dictatorship. I know it's not the same thing. I know it's not the same security.
It's a relative matter. What was security under the last regime?
I know it's not the security under dictatorship is not the same security under democracy. But at the same time, security was an acquis, and then they were pursuing for freedom and social justice, but they don't see any roadmap, any clear roadmap for them, and at the same time they are losing their acquis, and this is what creates a general climate of hopelessness, of desperation, and they are seeing their future as foggy, and this makes them really angry.
All right, Lara on Twitter saying to us, revolutions take time to happen and time to make an actual change. Nonetheless, Moncef, Sheikh Rouhou, you understand the impatience of some. There has been this constant criticism that the Constitutional Assembly could have come out with that document a lot sooner. When do you expect now, concretely, for Tunisians to vote on that constitution and for there to be elections?
Okay, this is a good question. As has been said, the Commission on Consensus about the Constitution has finalized its work. Now they are spending some time to figure out where the commas are going to be positioned, because all the Constitution is ready to be voted on here at the National Constituent Assembly. Now the elections will depend on the creation of the EZ, which is the independent instance to supervise the election. When Mr. Mohamed Brahmi was assassinated, our colleague in parliament was assassinated on the 25th of July of this year. We have elected 8 of the 9 persons of the EZ. Unfortunately, his assassination, his brutal assassination with 14 bullets, has signed the stop of our move towards finalizing this EZ. So there are some terrorist forces whose objective is not only religious or political, but it is anti-democratic. And since then, Tunisia, all united, has been acting against terrorism, and we are
hang on a second,
selecting
Moncef.
the people to vote for that.
Hang on a second, Moncef. That assassination happened back in July. Again, the question is,
yes,
when are Tunisians going to be able to vote on that new constitution? When will it happen?
That decision will be the decision of the 9 members of the independent instance of the election that have to be elected by parliament. But the administrative tribunal in Tunis wants to put his look into the way people are elected inside the commissions. So this is putting some delays. We are respecting the tribunals. It is taking time, not because the desire to finish is not here, but because every party is trying to play his role. That we still do not have a Supreme Court in Tunisia. It is going to be created, and the day we have a Supreme Court, we will not be falling in the intricacies of the small administrative court. So the answer to your question is that the election will take place when EZ will decide to announce it. And EZ is to be finalized during the next weeks. After that, they will require, as they say, up to 5 to 6 months to organize fair and transparent elections. So this is the agenda that is in front of us. We were heading towards elections in the fall of this year. Now we might be heading for elections around the spring of the coming year, or at worst, the fall of the coming year.
Monica Marks, do you see the same calendar for the year to come?
Well, I wasn't entirely able to hear what Moncef was saying, but I do think Tunisia's transition is on course. 2014 will almost assuredly see the finalization of the draft constitution and the next elections. These are the most important steps for Tunisia to take. I think Tunisians are often their harshest critics. It's very easy for us as internationals to kind of sit back and be very sanguine about the whole process and say, well, look, 1990 to 1995 were the bloodiest years of South Africa's history. Argentina experienced 4 coup attempts in 4 years during its transition. Every transition is very, very difficult, but for Tunisians, they're living this, they're breathing it every day. For them, they're comparing developments in the capital to their own revolutionary ideals. And so there's a lot of disappointment and disaffection, but at the same time, things are moving forward, and I think there's a lot of reason to be positive.
Jalila HEBHLI, you agree?
Yeah, there are lots of points. I mean, the fact of designating a new head of government, that's a positive point, and that's a step forward. But the problem is that Tunisians still don't see a clear roadmap. The security is a handicap for all progress, for example, for economic growth, for social justice, and at the same time to organize elections. How are we organizing elections? Speaking about elections in next fall, in next spring or fall, and we don't have the necessary security and stability in the country, and we still have terrorists in Shaambi and in all over Tunisia. How can we organize elections under fear? So that's a problem. So Tunisians on the ground, they see all those aspects, and they don't see the political leaders putting a clear roadmap with the clear dates, with clear who's doing what. They won't see actually the way out.
And when we come back, we'll be asking you, Saida, OUNISSI, about the naming of this new technocratic, as they put it, prime minister, and how that might affect the more clearer picture on this roadmap. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.